Hey everybody, welcome to Easy Update. I'm here with Jones. Jones is retiring.
This is an episode you've been planning for a long time.
I planned it for at least 6 hours.
But I want to start
Earlier
with
today,
saying,
I was like, hey Jones, I need an episode, and you're retiring.
what y'all up to?
What y'all up to? Nothing, because you're quitting.
Remember you and I sitting on the couch before we were building this crazy office and figuring all that out, and we just took a break? That was that was a lot of fun. It was a neat moment to reflect, and so I was like, I could enjoy this.
Could enjoy this job?
No, this episode.
Oh, this episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed, we've gotten a few chances over the years to just like be normal people together, which has been really nice. Like I think of like Pink Door in SF where we had dinner, and like a few other places where we had like dinner at like a con, but like outside of work, so we could actually just like be ourselves.
Yeah. It's
and not our weird personas that we maintain our fake personas even when we're just together in a room.
It's fun that way.
You know nothing.
It's fun to have you guessing who I am on any given day.
Jones, you are a mystery box.
Yay!
I wouldn't be surprised if I found out any number of things about you.
I do enjoy that because we get along. We have so much in common, the whole team. And so whenever I say something, the whole group like, what? I'm like, yeah.
I snack on it.
Yeah.
Anytime that happens, I'm just like, yes.
Because there's such basic things that I take to anyone else I know in the gaming industry, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "It's not that hard." Never mind. But
yeah, there are so many things. Like, I'm pretty consistent with who I am, I think. But like, there's stuff that you don't say on the camera that you say with your friends or whatever. Not like anything untoward, but just like
that's what Tier Maker's for, to get that stuff out.
Yeah. I hate Rice Krispies.
Fill in all the gaps.
Yeah. I don't. Rice Krispies are nice. I don't know. They were just the first cereal that popped into my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when this episode goes up at 9 p.m., April 30th.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll be retired
on the East Coast.
Yeah, you will be retired on the East Coast.
I'm gonna do an airing of my retirement at 9 p.m. Eastern, which you can then watch the rebroadcast of 3 hours later.
Yeah.
To then drop the ball at my
drop the ball on your retirement. So congratulations. How do you feel?
Well, then I'm back on the showcase on Monday.
How will you feel? Yeah, right. That's the thing.
And then group stream Tuesday night. So group stream will be the final night.
That's the last thing.
I will peel out of the parking lot Tuesday night. Yeah, because then I will, if I come back for anything, and like not too far because I'm playing Silent Hill with you until October. Because let's do it right.
Let's
Full
be real.
Let's one sitting. Let's do it.
Yeah. Enhanced edition.
Right. But I think the first person, because I offered, if you missed it on a group stream, I offered all of the individual allies. I was like, did I skip on? No, the Super Nintendo Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. That art is in the stream room.
And Kingdom Hearts with Brad needs to happen like immediately. So Brad and I already. He came into the podcast today when we were shooting it, and he was like, "Here's the version you need to get, and here's."
I love how are these remote streams or are you coming in?
I think I'll remote Final Fantasy 14, but I'm coming in for all.
Well, 14, for sure.
Yeah.
I like. Blood was kind of teasing you, but it does kind of feel like you've had, just because you've been gone dealing with obviously like mind melting, horrifying things. But it is funny that you have all these responsibilities now right when you're leaving. It's like you have to stream 8 games, 7.
I get so many comments. They're just like, so you're not playing Mass Effect 2? I'm like, I will probably eventually, but like not this summer. No, I'm not.
It's the good one.
I'm not going to. I know. I can't. There's nothing. There's nothing that doesn't seem exciting about that game.
Yeah. 1 and 3 aren't bad, but 2 is my favorite.
A famous entry into Hall of the Greats. Wait a minute.
It's not in there?
It's not in there. No.
Really?
Yeah.
Shoot.
You've tried more than once.
I did?
There's one I remember very specifically where I was like, God, it's a great argument. And then just like one vote.
Yeah.
Didn't work
Hall of Greats, one wonders if the arguments matter.
It's
sometimes.
There's no, it's like surfing, It's like you can know how to surf, but like you can't craft the wave you're about to surf on. You just got to get out there and feel it out. And so there's sometimes I've walked into Hall of Greats and been like, I am going to destroy this in a minute into my presentation. I'm like, I am
failing this.
This is not going to work out.
That's like any kind of thing where you've like planned and then as soon as you start talking, you're like, oh, this is falling apart. Like I can't think through this. I am losing this. I am defeated.
But it shows how much I love this job and I've been hooked to it for so long is because I'm like still doing so much shit. I'm still doing like, nice to do the podcast producer credits. That feels good to mispronounce all those people.
I'm glad.
It's an honor.
That seems like a big chunk of work to me.
It's like once a month though. So that's not
true.
a big of a deal. And every now and then I'll get a review in, and so that'll always be exciting. Blood texts me now. I will, this is the big thing is like, you're going to see in every single channel in Slack, like Jones is out, Jones is out, Jones is out.
Oh yeah.
Jones I could have done that now, but I like didn't want to be all depressing about it.
Well, it was,
it's like I'll do a big dump on Sunday, and then you'll just see like, oh, I'll be in the reviews channel in general and schedule maybe, and like that's it. Like,
it's been kind of an interesting transition, I guess, because you had made the decision privately to retire. You said in summer, and then you told me in Blood. I don't know when that was.
Late January.
Yeah, late
just
January.
After my birthday was on the 20th.
Right. And then we were like, okay, let's plan this out. And then I made like a pitch deck for the company, and I was like, hey, we should restructure. We did that meeting, and then 2 weeks later, your whole life fell apart. And like,
I made so many plans for April.
Right.
I was going to play Mass Effect 2 and like so many other things.
You had that show idea that like we just can't do.
We had a fun thing that was like...
I mean, maybe I shouldn't even tease that.
Had a slightly medical theme, and I was like, boy, let's not do that. In case anybody watches Easy Update, my kid was in the hospital. My two and a half year old.
Did you just say in case anyone watches Easy Update?
In case anybody... Phrase that exactly as
because let me tell you, they don't.
In case people watch Easy Update and nothing else.
Oh, okay.
And they don't get when they get their Brandon Jones news from Easy Update.
Maybe there's one person on the planet Earth.
My son had a very serious medical issue that is getting better because he's home with us now. But for 9 weeks he was in the hospital, and my life became something I never imagined it could. But it was great because
I can't even imagine.
But certainly going into retirement, like you have always had a strength, and I have friends like you that have been challenged in ways that I've not. And I have no student debt. Like there's just a lot of things in my life that I kind of coasted through. That as an artist, in a weird, gross way, is like, shucks, am I able to make good art without that turmoil? Without those, because I see people say, oh, they're like, oh, you did this thing, it's so great. So, well, I did that because I lost this person, I had this horrible breakup or something. Like,
right.
Oh, like I've had bad things happen, but none of them, that's not a lot where my creativity comes from or like my art comes from.
I definitely don't subscribe to the idea that you have to be a tortured artist.
No, but it's the same thing as traveling. It broadens your horizon. It just helps. And I have gotten just so much strength. Like Amanda and I are just kind of like, there's so many things that we're surprised, so many weeks later, we're like, whoa, that doesn't shake us now. Like that's crazy. Like we got to medicate the kid at home, and we have the whole chart on the fridge. It's like, did you do that? Okay, it's 0.8 for what? Okay, we got to change all that.
Jeez.
And but it's great to get him home. It's
yeah.
Like, it sucks, but he's home, so I will light my hair on fire every single day if it means he gets.
My therapist calls that scaling. When like you've had certain tragedies, everything else becomes the small stuff.
That's how you can run 26 miles.
Right.
Straight is scaling. Like you can't just run a mile and then 10 and then 26. Like when you train for a marathon, you do, like 3 to 4 for a long time. And then right before you do the marathon, you do 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And you start to scale up, and then you run the marathon, and then you stop doing that for a while. You give yourself a break.
And you pass out.
It's just something, the way marathons were invented that we didn't know people could do until a dude did it and then died. And then the Greeks were like, let's do that again.
Wasn't his name Marathon? Isn't that why they're called that?
I think he was running 2 Marathon. I think Marathon was the place he was going.
Yeah. Some kind of mythic.
I don't know. Or these unit of measurement between the cities. I don't know. Or 26 miles, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It was that long.
There's
Never done a full. Did the half.
Yeah.
Did the 13.2. The 26.4 can kiss my ass. I'm not doing that.
I did a 5K once on a whim. My girlfriend at the time was like, there's a 5K. We were like literally walking, and she was like, there's a 5K. Let's do it. And I was like, what? I was like,
There was one we did, because a lot of times they'll do an event. I'm so glad we're talking about this. A lot of times they'll do events that are
not
like
what I expected
5K,
to talk
10K,
about.
and then a half or something, because they'll do something for kids or, so different members of the family can all contribute to the same like racing event, and they'll do it over several days. And so Amanda and I did a 5K one time, and we followed like the wrong signs. Not to like go on the wrong street or something, but like I was judging the wrong measurements to determine how long we've been running. And so I turned a corner, and the guy's like, yeah, go down this way. And I saw the finish line coming up. We were both like, what? And then we like crossed. And we're like, was that it? And they were like, yeah. And we were just like, whoa. Like, and that just shows your mind how you can really pace yourself.
If you're expecting way worse.
Or if you're the type of person that is constantly checking, how long's it been? Versus like, I'm just going to go and then someone's going to tell me to stop. Like, it's been proven like that generally helps you get through a tough thing.
Yeah.
If you just stop, like, it's been 5 minutes, it's been 10 minutes. Like, that can really like wear you down. Long story short, we have found this strength that's like, oh boy, there's lots of stuff. A couple years ago, I think I would have been more scared going into retirement. But now I'm like, man, compared to every other day going to a hospital and seeing your son just tackle something way harder than anything you have ever had to deal with in 43 years. It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah. The toughest part about since July when I had the idea was just waiting, just like having an idea, but when it would be a good time to do it after our anniversary.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about that some, like, when's the best time to tell people? Like, we ended up deciding that, like, tell them up front and then tell them all the changes after that, because you couch the bad news and the good news together and then it evens out, maybe, hopefully. Yeah.
And, I mean, just probably like if I had fears, my biggest fears is just like this has any sort of impression that there's any sort of issues with this company. It's like this company is upward trended, viewership on YouTube and patron numbers and finances or whatever. It's like we've just constantly tried and done new things. And that's so awesome. And just 6 years to out of the garage, brand new shows, like guests and all of the people that the access that we have, is super cool. Seeing how hard it was and how typically, back in the day we had to watch just all these dumb executives at Defy and Spike and MTV and Viacom just, make the tough decisions for us because it's like, you're lucky to have this job, blah, 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 blah. And then we're like, actually, we're just going to make our own company.
Right.
How about that?
I snacked on it when the news that Defy was like a weird shell company that was just stealing money from people happened like 6 or 7 months after they fired all of us and we rode that popularity to start Easy Allies, or that publicity. I mean, I was like, Schadenfreude. I was just like, ha!
One thing y'all weren't exposed to at Defy was I would have weekly meetings with them. So I'd sit down with you think of all the old Defy, it's Smash, Screen Junkies, Clever, all those groups. Each of them had one, if not multiple, scheduling people, and then we would meet with the head content person every week to know what everybody was doing. And the thing that was so different about us was, it's not like really a bad thing, especially if you're like an Easy Allies fan. You're like, oh God, please just keep doing that. Which is like a lot of weeks I'd be like, we have our shows.
Same old.
Yeah, we got our shows, and we're going to still be doing this because they're all focused around news.
Yeah.
And they're all focused around what the industry's doing, whether like a new game just came out or, we want to stream something. So it'd be rare that it would be like, whoa, big new crazy initiative at game trailers. Like, especially when we were at Defy and really wanted to stay the course and show them like who we were and what we wanted to do. And then like when all these other people would jump in, it was like, what did you get paid to where? You're flying who to what? Jovenshire's going where? It's just like, they always just had crazy big bucks coming through. And I was like, one day they're going to tell us to do that or teach us how they do it, and it was, I always felt just like such an odd duck in those meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And looking up to all of these people that was like, man, they clearly have such a great relationship and they've been working for so long with Defy. And then when all of that news came out and all of those heads of those companies were like, no, screw Defy. I was like, oh, I didn't know. I wish I'd known all of you were struggling that way. Or
is this true? Can you tell me this or not? This is something I've been wondering.
Ooh.
Because I had heard when we got acquired, whatever, sloughed off of Viacom onto Defy.
When we were sloughed.
Right. That they didn't even want us. They got us accidentally along with like Addicting Games or something like that. Do you know?
We were a package deal. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The biggest evidence I can say to that effect is that we were never given ideas. Like like Defy Media never came to us and said, oh, here's a thing, or here's just here's an easy way you can double the downloads of the.
And they certainly didn't hate us. Like they built us studios.
Built us 2 stages. Yeah. We moved, which I was like, oh God, this is gonna suck. And it was like, there were things that were better about that space. And they always
Don and I
made
had
room
our own
for us
office.
And,
watching movies all the time.
Smosh Games was cramped in one tiny little room. Their stage was in the same room as their desks, and we had cubicles and all that stuff. So, but it's weird. It's a weird company to watch people spend money. It's like in the digital space, I've been at a couple of big companies, and they both did not have it figured out.
Dude.
Really,
I'll freelance for,
really cross their fingers in a lot of ways.
I've edited for a lot of big companies, right? And like the money they're throwing around on the wrong stuff is hilarious. It's just like, I'm like, I know how much you're paying me, and like, because you're paying me a day rate, it's like, you are throwing money around. Like, it is ridiculous.
I saw some tweet with talked about Meta gave like 2 point or 3 point something billion toward their like, reality labs or whatever, like their big VR, like come into the VR and do all the Meta stuff. And they're like, it's not getting the traction anymore. Better spend more billions on it. It's like, no one's gonna play this.
People have been trying that same idea.
There's this wedge between the people who have to make those financial decisions and everyone who knows you're making the wrong decision, and you just cannot listen to them. Like they're flying. They're literally flying above the clouds. Like, you have to fly beneath the clouds to hear what's happening, and they don't want to. So it's like,
well, there are people exist in different realities. Like, it was like back to the thing we talked about before about, I heard a quote that was interesting that, may or may not apply to what exactly you were saying, but like, someone had said, like, and I don't remember who said this, but I really liked the quote, but they were like responding to someone who had said, oh, another rich kid who just does art, like, trust fund kid gets to go and do whatever they want because they have money, so they just go and do art. And then someone said, or a human being, when the constraints of survival are removed, will choose art. Like, and I really like that kind of flip on it, because it's like easy to feel guilty for having any kind of privilege, and I do consider this job a privilege because it's really
I'm retiring
fantastic.
in my early 40s.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still going to work. Retiring meaning like I created this job I have in a lot of ways. Like we co-founded ECL as I created game shows. So it's like leaving these things I made and just have just done nothing but work on. Like, I was talking to a man about this today, that just there were so many times where my friends or family or somebody was planning to do something, and I was like, I got work. I have this job that I just care too much about because I'm so close to it.
Well, it's weird too, because for me, game trailers was always kind of like the really awesome day job while I waited for my other stuff to hit, right? Like my scripts or whatever, my music. And then like, it accidentally evolved into like this amazing career. And it's like, I had to, when we handed over power, or when people like learned about it, people kept saying like, oh, congratulations. Like, that's really huge. And I had to remind myself, like, it is like, we own this company.
Oh God.
I was like running it.
When I announced I was editor-in-chief of Game Trailers,
oh yeah,
I remember when they made that announcement, I was like on a stream, like other people were streaming. And I remember like I came in, I was like, hey, they were like, how's it going? Well, it's crazy. You're like moving over to Defy, and now you're there. I think we had been at Defy for like a week. I just hadn't made it official yet. And follow Cup of Jones if you want to learn that whole story, how Viacom and Defy both lied to me. I was like, oh, one of you is lying or both of you? It was just a lot of strange, crazy, like...
Probably both.
Some super, like, just raw evilness, just really getting to the top.
I want to hear about this.
It's fun. I mean, just people giving me stuff in breach of contract that I would have to, like, sue to do anything about. And I just realized, like, oh, you said that and we're lying, but I have no legal standing, and I just got burnt. And, like, I didn't get burnt a lot because the job worked out really well for me. And so that I waltzed into some situations that I was like, oh, whoops, I thought you were going to be nice to me there. Why did I think that?
Did I tell you how I got everyone a raise when we went to Defy? Because one of the Defy people apparently didn't know what we were all paid. And he goes, what are your hourly rates to everyone in the room, which is insane.
What are your hourly rates?
Yeah, and I remember I just went, don't answer that to everyone. I was like, don't answer that. We'll get back to you. And then I was like,
yeah,
double it. Everyone double it. Yeah. Like, and it worked.
Yeah. I'd rather make double salary for year and a half at Defy than my regular salary for 3 years or 4 or whatever. So it's
wound up with Don and I being paid more than I think everybody, but who knows?
Worth it. You had so much shit to cut, they were,
that's probably not exactly true, but.
So yeah, I miss y'all. This is just so sweet. We have our own studio. We have our own, we have 2 stages to produce things simultaneously. We record shows. We can stream. It's tough to look back. Oh, long story short. So I walked in one of these streams and they were like, how's everything going? I'm like, I'm editor-in-chief now. And I think the people streaming knew that, but I was like, I haven't told chat yet. And chat exploded. People were like, oh my God, congratulations. And I was like, If you knew
right.
what's been going on for the last couple of years, you would understand why I'm kind of exhausted about the whole thing. But yeah, this is like a neat, place to be. And there have been so many moments about that, and where like, I remember going to the Spider-Man preview event and just like, I was there before they opened the door, it's just they like open up the door, like Brian Intar is like, oh, hey, Jen. I'm like, hey, where are our stations? It's just like, I'm so excited that I get to do this in my home city. They came to Santa Monica to, like rented a place so we could go check this out. And I just was like,
there were so many times.
I'm like, how are you leaving early? We only have 30 more minutes to play this. Like,
there were so many times like PSX or whatever when we got in like an hour early or, and then they let the public in or whatever, and it just felt cool where it's like, I'm already in here.
It's like a business we've had to run, and yet there's moments where we're just pure children.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like I am
still. Feels like I'm wrangling cats sometimes.
I've just
in a fun way.
I've just come out of this like dire medical emergency in my immediate family, and then this like stupid Disney game gets announced. So I'm like, ew, because it's just too. It's really interesting, to get heady in an easy update kind of way.
I mean, that's what we're here for. The fucking subtitle in the back of the screens is in Latin, Jones.
Because I'm about to get uber pretentious as an artist.
You're welcome to do that here.
But
this is a safe space.
I mean, if you make good commercials, you have a good shot at winning the presidency. It's like if you make good entertainment, you know what I mean?
We're getting heady and political.
I think the editor, in a lot of ways, is king and queen in this new century. It's like, how are you packaging your stuff, and you're like, well, I have an idea. It's like, no, I don't want an idea. I want it to be done. They literally want it. I want to see it, hear it, feel it, all of it, know? And so it's like, there's so many people that are, like people that are in our position where we're like, we can voice something, we can write something, we can cut it, we can do, I just think I think about the projects that I want to do and the way I want to promote them and like how can I make that exciting for somebody? And it's like, I can't help but think that every person on the planet is going through the same issue. It's just like, that's why trailers, I think, are life. You go in for a job interview and you're like, if I only had a trailer that was just, like Brandon Jones,
I mean, you technically could do that.
And there's with Amanda's job,
hours of content,
multiple
of
Amanda Troop trailers, that just show all of her different types of things she can do. Some are just audio because she does voiceover.
I've had reels,
And so I just think about how much of the world has been commercialized, which is like, not fantastic in terms of like something humans can be proud of, but it's still so much the way the world operates. So it's like, I just long story short, I think artists have just a ton of power that they can still wield and will wield way more as time goes on, because like when we have votes, when we have like elections and stuff like that, it's like, oh, we had a little bit more, and this is again like Dancing with the Stars, just like 10 billion that, and so it's like people all agree to show up for some things that are just kind of like important in entertainment and in the arts, and don't really get an opportunity to be like, wait a minute, who did you vote for before I watched the Spider-Man movie? It's like we just all get together and enjoy stuff. So it's like,
it's funny.
Okay, when I see so much of the world fighting over so many weird things, a lot of it miscommunication. And then see something come along that like, it seems like the audience around this is very eclectic. There's like a lot of people, absorbing this art. And then it's just like, how do we all get along? It's like, they did it for like a second,
art.
So,
well, it's interesting.
As an artist, like, I hope we can turn it around.
Something I've been thinking about a lot recently along these lines is like, I remember when I was like 13 or 14, I had a thought that popped into my head, fully formed, and I was like, I feel like I'm waiting for the human race to grow up, because everyone seems like they're missing the big picture here. Like, they're killing the planet, everyone's fighting over dumb shit, it's all insane, and like the last few years have made me feel that even more. And I think that on the whole, we're trending toward the positive, right? It bums me out that it's slower than I would have hoped. Like, technology is growing exponentially. Like the thing I love to say that just makes it so solid for me, that I read in a book a while ago, and I've said it a million times, but like, there were 6 transistors in the Sony radio or whatever in the 50s, and now there are 6 billion in your phone or whatever it is.
I love the like 10 megabyte computer they're like pushing onto the plane, and it's just it's like the size of an apartment.
Yeah, and it's like I have thousands the size of that in my phone right now, and it's like the sad thing is that technology is growing exponentially and humanity is not. Like, we are all but snails pacing forward. And it's like something that's become more and more clear to me over the years is like in lines with the scaling and stuff, but also like having to come to grips with like my own existence, you know, like my sexuality, my gender, whatever, is like, oh, okay, I'm a person who like some people just don't agree is real. And like, that's just something I have to,
yeah,
you know, and it's like, okay, well, you live in a different reality than I do. and like, I don't know how to.
And I have to accept the fact that I would probably be living in a different reality too had I not come over to Easy Allies and left at that point and done another job and followed something where I was not, you know, like I went to Emerson College and was in the theater department. There were way more LGBTQ people in that theater department than cis white men like me. But
gay by May or your money back was the motto at my theater school.
Like even in 2001, you know, like having many friends who were gay in billions of different ways.
Yeah,
you know, was still like what? Was still would see transitioning and see, you know, see people kind of like finding those gender boundaries and like kind of befuddled. Like I really didn't, and not in a way of like, well, that's weird. Moving on. I was like, no, I'm fascinated by this. I want to know the answers.
Yeah,
and exploring it was, you know, would trip on my tongue, and so it's like I think we have. I think two main things are like crippling this world, and that is kind of an insensitive thing to say, hurting this world. We think we're capable of communicating better than we can, and everyone is so afraid to admit fault. You know, everyone's so afraid to be like, "Oh,
we think we're smarter than we
are." Yeah,
and everyone is clinging to the idea that there is one truth. Like, as a teenager, I was raised Christian, right? And it didn't fit with me. Even as a kid, I was like, why does this feel so oppressive and wrong to me? And this is not to say that it's wrong for anyone, but it wasn't right for me. Yeah. And so I spent like a good decade reading everything I could find, philosophy, religion, like all kinds of stuff, studying all kinds of stuff like Taoism, Hindu, like existentialism, you know, everything. And like
Buddhism myself.
Yeah, Zen Buddhism
is not like following top to bottom, but it's just a lot to learn.
Well,
there.
Zen Buddhism and absurdist existentialism like were the two that I was like, okay, yeah, because they're basically the same thing.
Whoa,
but like Albert Camus and Zen koans like are like, okay, yeah, they get it. Like this makes sense to me. And like I have held someone's hand as they die, and it didn't shake my philosophy. And to me, that is true with a capital T to me.
Yeah.
That's my truth, and it's not anyone else's, because I think everyone has their own bespoke philosophy, and I don't understand why we're all not just cool with that idea. Like, why do we all need to play for the same team? It's kind of wild. And I think so along your lines, I think like everybody thinks they're smarter than they are, and also people are only exposed to what they're exposed to.
Of course.
And they think that's all of reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, you notice, like, there's a reason that urban centers are all liberal, because it's like, you've been around everybody else and you're like, oh, okay. Right. Like, these people aren't villains. Nobody, you know, they're different from me, but it's fine. Like, you know, and it's like, not meaning to throw shade on non-urban areas, obviously, but like, if you're only taught one thing, you think that's the only thing.
Well, and I grew up in Palos Verdes Estates, which is a peninsula south of Los Angeles, where a lot of super rich people live.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, my family did well, and there are a lot of red houses in that. You know, I grew up with a lot of staunchly Republican, you know, friends and families, and you know, I consider myself fairly democratic and liberal, but that there's still like just a lot of things. I'm like, wait a minute, this should be explored, you know?
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of thing, whereas like I understand that in a way, you know, like my father voted Republican all his life. I created GameCharts.com with somebody who is a staunch conservative, and so it's weird. It's interesting to. I just don't think your perspective ever stops. I don't think there's any sort of the team mentality just has such a conclusiveness to it that just doesn't feel like life. It just doesn't feel like the good stuff. Love being corrected. Love, you know. That's what's great about movies, because it's just in 2 hours, like your whole worldview can change, or you can just see
an
expression of something that just doesn't make sense to you. Or I love seeing a movie that's like a foreign film or something that's from like a really, expressionist director, and I don't like it. And then I talk to somebody else and I'm like, oh,
right.
Like, watch it again. And I'm like, oh my God, you just totally explained to me what I didn't realize I was watching. And it's like, that's just such a cool eye-opening experience.
It's about that?
Yeah.
It's funny because I grew up in a town of 2,000 people in rural Wisconsin, and we were one of the better off families in the more well off, whatever, in the town. And like, the disparate, the differences in the upbringing and stuff, it was very interesting to have, like, I had like chronic depression for like my entire teenage years, like for reasons that are now more clear, but like, I couldn't wait to get out of there, and now I think back and I'm like, well, I really liked the trees and like I could just go like skating around in the street and it was like whatever. And like, there are a lot of nice things about a small town too, but yeah, it's very interesting, like different places, different beliefs, different people.
Well, like I have been with Amanda now for like this as long as I've been at Game Trailers. Like I created Game Trailers and a couple months later met her. And
oh really?
Yeah.
That's fun.
I remember we were like driving to the date and she's like, what do you do? And I was like, I might lose some points with this one, but I just started a video game website. And she was like, oh, and she's like, what does it do? And I'm like, we just do video. And she's like, oh, cool. And she's like, well, I'm an actor. And I'm like, yeah, are we doing anything else? She's like, just going to try to make that acting thing pay the bills. And we were both like,
yeah, you're like, well, we're morons.
Dumb lofty goals.
And it worked out more or less.
I even going through just this crazy, crazy couple of months that were so scary. Yeah. And one day in particular where like he had a procedure that went wrong and like he wasn't in danger, but it was such a pace dump. Like we were having some nice momentum and it just stopped. Yeah. And we just kind of stared at each other and I was like, man, I feel like we just got in a car accident or something. It was like we couldn't talk for like 2 hours because it's just like, whoa, like what do we do? Whoa, I'm really being physically affected by this. I'm like next Wednesday I have couples therapy with her and I'm going to learn something about Amanda I never knew. And then 20 years into this relationship that is great. There's no there were rough patches we went through, but not at a point where I thought I made a bad decision on my life partner. Like we get along so well. And so if in 20 years I am still, oh, what a revelation. Or like, she's like, you were saying that for so many years, but I didn't really know what you were saying.
Right. Like, oh. Yeah.
We had like one argument where I told her I was having a panic attack and she she thought it was like in quotes. She was like, oh, I thought you meant like panic attack. I was like, no, I literally was like,
literally I'm having a panic attack.
And she was like, oh, but it's like, she didn't do that because she doesn't love me to death. And so I think about like disagreements I have with just anybody. And it's like, there's obviously so much, well deeper than a lifetime that it would take me to really understand that person. And so it's like, it's part of why I'm flawed is I always give people the benefit of the doubt, probably when I shouldn't. But I just think there's just so much more cool learning stuff that you can do. I remember learning Germany wasn't called Germany in Germany. Remember like
Deutschland.
I remember that hitting me like in high school. I was like, what? And they were like, no, yeah,
it was Japan for me when I was a teen. I was like, they don't call it Japan?
Yeah, you're like, huh? That's the word.
Well, but then I'm proud of myself that my first thought is like, we're a bunch of assholes. Why are we calling people's own stuff different shit? That's not our place. We can't do that. Like, what are we doing?
So it's just, it's neat to have. I remember going to Europe and after my senior year, and it was over the summer, and 4th of July, like in the hotel, they came in with like little American flags. And they were like, hey. I was like, I appreciate the effort.
You're like, get out of here.
But it, again, was one of those situations where I was like, oh, yeah, today's no, wait, you're doing us a favor.
Right.
Because you're not
don't care about this.
Today.
Yeah, you don't care about this.
And I know on paper, you're like, duh, it's only an American holiday. They don't separate. But like when you physically go other places, and then,
I mean, that's a perfect example
it's culture shock. Like, you don't.
That's a perfect example of exposure and like learning new things and doing new things. Japan calls itself Nippon.
Yeah.
Like, we made up a word. That's a name. That's like if I just started calling you like Charles.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to. Like, it was like, that's what we call you.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Amanda's, Robert Hall, shout out, lived to 101. Her
Dang.
grandpa was just like, someone you could learn so much from, but was still like, a little iffy on the Japanese, because he like fought in Korea, and so it was like
I had a landlord.
Okay,
I had a landlord who would always say like,
he didn't
"Let me."
fight in Korea. He fought on those islands, man. Like he fought in the Pacific.
I had a landlord who was in World War II and kept telling me he was going to show me the katana. Let's just say that he got off a Japanese person.
Shout out!
And I was just like, dude, I'm not comfortable
shout out
with
to
this,
everybody
dude.
fighting for their countries in that war. Like my God, there were a lot of big, terrifying, destructive things that happened during those years when that was happening. So, but like there was some stuff, it's hard to shake that stuff. It's hard to shake the stuff that comes down through families and legacy and stuff. It's hard to broaden your horizons. But I've just never. So rare in 43 years that I've attempted to do that uncomfortably and come out on the other end and being like, I favor ignorance. Like it was sweet when I didn't go to that country. It was like, no, man, it was awesome. And I went and like, damn, Italy is hot. Like, wow, like
warm,
like the heat and it. Wow, oof.
Because I was like, I was trapped in the Paris airport for 16 hours, I was like, man, Paris is hot.
And I mean, haven't been to Africa,
haven't been
to a lot of places.
Not hot, warm, like. Sexy.
Just that. But there's just something, it's the world is so great, and it's just it's tough to see it kind of turtling up in a way. It's tough to see people really.
That's the weird thing where it's like this kind of like weird bent that the whole world is on right now, where it's like, yo, hey, why are we all getting weird on each other now? Like,
well, a lot of people, I mean, shout out to Elon's Twitter, but like the Twitter Lord. I was on a couple weeks ago, a lot of people got really mad at, justifiably get really mad on Twitter because there's a lot of people inciting madness and anger on that platform. But it's also kind of like, I think I've said this a couple of times, but like I've participated in more than one intervention where I've like specifically sat somebody down based on behavior or drug use and been like, stop doing this because we all care about you.
Yeah.
And Twitter seems like one gigantic intervention. It's like everyone on Twitter is that person on the couch who's like, I don't deserve this. It's like, what? Leave me alone. What are you what's going on? Like the Hangover Part 3. Just,
what an interesting way to look at Twitter.
Because everyone's so mad about, people pointing out stuff, and like the sad part is you're never going to point something out for somebody and they're going to be like, thanks.
Right.
Like it's like 99% of the time, like nobody wants to be corrected. Nobody wants to be told they're doing anything wrong.
Well, that's why I always say you catch more flies with honey, right? Like,
yeah.
If someone,
I don't know if you could make honey on Twitter.
Well, yeah. I mean, like,
I don't know
that's
if there's
true.
a place to put honey.
It may be too late, but like, if you come at somebody all militant and angry, like you're just going to entrench them. You're not going to get them to come to your side,
and it's not going to work out for you. And
right, you're just wasting time and energy.
So many times I thought I made I still think I was like, God, that would have been a good tweet, but I'm just like, I don't have the energy to back this up. I don't have the energy to then hang around Twitter all day to like get into it with people. And so there's this interesting.
That's why I don't like to say, like, talk about politics or beliefs or whatever. I mean, we talk about philosophy and stuff a lot, and I always try to be clear, like, this is what I think. I'm not saying this as a way to negate what you think. Like, by and large, whatever you think, as long as it's not hurting anybody, I don't care. It's fine. But like, it's not worth the effort most of the time to talk about this stuff. I don't know how people like Hassan or whoever like do political content, because it's like you have to just be constantly barraged by people with their thoughts and opinions and feelings. And it's just like, good Lord.
The political space, I don't think there's any other like arena where the most, it's like, that 3 words of the 5,000 you said, I think are really interesting. And you're like, the sentence wasn't even that long, man. Like, come on. Just read the whole thing. Like, never.
No.
It happens in entertainment, but it's not as
context is not.
It's not as long standing. Policies don't get passed based on like celebrities arguing. It's like, just crazy. So my hope is that like we're uncomfortably moving towards. The thing about intervention is it's about transparency. It's like you have to look at the life that you're living. You have to see it through other people's eyes and understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And so it's like. It can be frightening to see how people treat each other or what opinions people have on Twitter, but at the same time, it's like, hey, let's get it all out. Let's all realize who we are. Let's not talk about politics. Let's not have people governing one way, but thinking somebody else, and like somebody's like very, has very anti-gay policies. And then like 5 years later, it's like, I'm gay. And you're like, can we please stop that? God, come on. Like,
I don't even know if that's always the case,
but just have people be on platforms that they really, really believe in and like aren't doing something just because it works. It's like, it's a tactic. And so hopefully Twitter's kind of uncomfortably the beginning of this weird process where like you don't, It's just it's harder to lie. Like you find out like Nixon and JFK and all these presidents made crazy decisions that we know about now, but it was a generation ago. So what are you going to do?
Right.
Hopefully that's like speeding up a little bit to where this stuff we can find out more.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope we're not heading. I honestly, with climate change and with all this stuff, like it might be too late. We might be 2 years away from it being too late. Like, or some kind of technological leap will bail us out in the last minute, like, and if we don't destroy ourselves first, like, but it's really interesting being someone who, like, yeah, there are states writing bills like don't say gay where it's just like, okay, but like I am that thing, and it's like obviously like people of color have been dealing with everyone has been oppressed forever in various ways,
no,
and it's just
I'm
like
way outside of that. None of the
not everyone, I
things
guess.
I like cling to have anything to do with me.
And that's the crazy
or something
thing is
that
like
I'm going to be left out on. That feels bad.
Stop writing policy about other people's existence.
That feels bad as a
please.
voter to try to get things changed that like are really not going to change anything in my life. I'm going to be able to live such a charmed life outside of all of these horrible things that I'm trying to prevent.
It's really funny to have gone from someone who, like, I had said that before. I was like, whoever ends up president, it doesn't really affect me. Like, I was like a 20-year-old when I was saying this, and I was like, like, whatever. I just go to my job and do my stuff, and it's like, whatever. None of this really changes my day to day. And now I'm just like, I don't know if I can go to half of the states in this country anymore. Sure.
I didn't have a strong political opinion, and then a bunch of my friends got murdered because somebody brought a gun to school. You're like, oh, like that's a reality coming down on everyone in the world in a way that just I don't think did when in the 90s. I don't think it did. So
and it's like I hope that
scary to watch, but I hope is strengthening people or.
I hope we're confronting it so that it changes faster soon or something, because like I don't know what else. And it's funny you were talking about interventions and stuff, and it's like it's always so interesting. It's an interesting feeling when you like try to have an intervention or like try to talk to someone about an issue where it's like, hey, this is my feeling, and then it's like turned around and it like doesn't work, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, what do I do? Like we fundamentally have different thoughts about this thing.
Yeah,
we're not going to move either of us. So what do we do? Like,
what's crazy is watching Amanda do improv for so many years, and she's so good at it. And not only improv, but long form narrative improv. So we're gonna do a scene, and then another scene, and then another scene, and then 18 to 20 more scenes, and then finish this bullshit story. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't work at all, but it's funny to watch. It's a fun like experiment. But like there are some times I've watched that where it is hive mind. I was like, what? And we would like drive home and I'm like, how did you do that? And she's like, I don't know. Like
there are a few episodes of Fiasconauts where we did that, and I was just like, we just told like an actually good story,
and like we try to like chase those episodes. We'll end a perfectly fine fiasco, but it's like, man, it wasn't Regina's wedding.
It wasn't Regina's wedding, dude.
Man, I was scrolling through old thumbs. I started at the beginning. I was just like going through old stuff to try to mention stuff on Cup, and I was just like, God, that's a good thumbnail too.
Thanks. That was before Select Subject too. Those took a long time.
But they talk about. She talks about first circle, second circle, third circle, and first circle is too close, too close. You are making yourself too much of this, and you're not listening to what's going on.
Right.
And so other performers kind of have to like do your show because you're not changing, and you're not listening. You're forgetting people's names, and you're trying too hard. You're talking too much. And the third circle is, hello, we're over here. It's like, I'm just going to stand back and not rock the boat. It's like, that's cool, but when there's silence, it'd be awesome if you could chime in with just some idea, even if it's bad. And second's just this is exactly where we want to be. It's just right in the middle where I'm like, I'm affecting things, but I'm also listening a lot. And as somebody who's moderated some very elongated, self-aggrandizing podcasts, it's tough.
Similar to this one.
It's tough to,
Well, it's funny because like, I don't know if you know this, but I went to a theater conservatory. And the whole first year was about listening, pretty much. Like
That's kind of when I bailed on acting is when I could tell like I'm not really focused on the craft as much as I should be. And that doesn't sound like fun. That sounds like more work than I think I want to do. Because it's tough. I have so much respect for Amanda that she's like,
oh yeah, it's a whole.
All those auditions you've done and did book. Shit.
Yeah, dude. When I got kicked out of the theater school, I was like, yeah, cool. I wasn't loving this. Like, I'd much rather make movies. So, like, smell you later. But yeah, it's life, man. What the shit?
So having some forced, I think transparency has been important in this business.
Easy Allies.
This crowdfunding effort. That obviously we got to hide stuff because we announce things and have surprises and stuff. But like,
and there are a lot of things that just like wouldn't be productive to say in public. But
like as a film major in like the late '90s in college, and then just graduating in the era of YouTube, just like never thought of the advantage or of putting this much work into this continual back and forth conversation with the community. And now like going into anything else I want to do, like, if I can get in a Final Fantasy game or on an anime or something as a voice actor, like, that sounds like fun, and that'll be a nice paycheck, and I'll be able to like, pay for my kids' meds. But like going to a con, like if there's always like, the game was cool, but it only had an audience of like 800. It's like, I want to meet those 800 people. I can't wait, because that's, again, what you were saying, like that's when somebody comes through and you're like, you all liked the game for the reasons I thought you would, right? And they're like, no, I liked it for this reason. And like,
right.
Whoa, or if I can like write some stuff, as a screenplay or a book or whatever, again, like finding any sort of, that's what crowdfunding does. You just you have your community and you make that work, and it grows and it shrinks, or, it can go all sorts of different ways. But just like when it's yours, when you're like, oh yeah, no, if I come to fight and touch this was just, and yes, there are things I wish I had done differently, but it feels good to make your own mistakes and learn from them. And it's nice. The transparency of that was informed me a lot of how, maybe the world can get better if like more people are open to that, or open to like, oh, whoops, I totally made a mistake. I didn't mean to animate books. Everyone stop making that joke. Well, like these moments where you did something, but people saw it differently, and then they enjoy it in a way that you could never enjoy it. Somebody asked me on Cup, they're like, do you have a perspective on the last 20 years? I'm like, how could I? There's no way.
The what?
I have one singular perspective that's just me.
Yeah.
And then I'm not even going to pretend for a second that is anything like any of the 8,000 people we got supporting us on Patreon.
Zhuangzi, baby. Perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the funny thing too about like the nature of our job is like, I think if we asked, this would be very egotistical, but if we asked like, so I'm asking you, if we asked viewers at home to like describe who you think each of us is.
Yeah.
Not only would everyone be different for all of us, they'd mostly probably be wrong. And like, I think about that a lot sometimes, where it's like thinking through my own life, and it's like, okay, I'm perceived as an edgelord, as like, I think everything is trash, like all this stuff. And like, I realized slowly throughout my life, and like, obviously earlier I was on like Rage Poison, which like didn't fit who I was, right? And so I've since fixed that issue for myself. But like, I was like, oh, okay, like they didn't know I was kidding about that, or that I didn't really care about Skyrim. Like I was just talking shit, but I didn't care at all. And everyone took it very seriously. And I'm like, okay, there's something about my tone or who I have portrayed myself as being that makes people think that was real when it wasn't. Yeah. I need to adjust my public persona, Well, and like, I think that's true for all of us.
You were talking about universal truth and just kind of the ill-advised search for that, because it's like, the way I envision what you're describing is just kind of this whole kind of mental projection up into like one point that technically is you, like right. Your celebrity, your online persona, and it's just like everybody can feed into that, but nobody can really understand it. Nobody can. There's no one angle that you can grasp or teach yourself that'll like encapsulate the whole thing.
Yeah,
and that's cool, but it's I think as a film major, and you got the movie podcast over there, there's just so many movies that like I know the world loves that I just can't stand, and but I'm so fascinated by them, because it's like,
name one?
What is it? Moulin Rouge is just drives me up the wall, man. Yeah. That's one of my big ones that people are, and I'm a huge musical theater fan.
Yeah,
huge.
Oh, we know.
And I've sung that soundtrack before. Like it is whimsical to no
end.
Fun
karaoke music.
It just I was surprised at how popular that film was at the time. But I love that stuff. I just love seeing those those things that don't quite play out the way I want to, and like studying that as opposed to just kind of like writing it off. But
I wish more people would do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I had another point, but you've made lots of points. Is now the part where I just like compliment you for 10 minutes so I can just get that out of the way?
Who, me?
Leave it on a good note. Yeah.
Why?
It's your show. You know, we got you're not going to be on the showcase on Monday when I get group stream and then I'm out. So this is like, you know.
I mean, if you wanted to, whatever. Before you do that, I do want to say, come be a guest anytime on Reaction Shots. Anytime. Just show up. We're doing.
I've been thinking about a lot of stuff, and
we're doing Friday the 13th movies.
Shit,
because the episode comes out on Friday the 13th. Jones.
Yeah,
they didn't even know that yet. I haven't seen like half of them.
Not for a bit, but
yeah.
And man, I hate to. I always use the P word, promise. If I say the word promise, that's something I'm committing to doing. I am not promising this at all, but like. I'm a film major, man. Of course I want to be on reaction shows. It's just one of those things where I'm
it's one of
I
those...
could see that upticking in my retirement for me to just like cruise by.
Yeah.
It's like playing games, that's the hard part. That's the part where it's like actually requires skill. You don't know how long this stuff is. You have to get these big beefy consoles and this giant TV, you know, and just like watch a movie on my phone in an hour and a half. Done. I'm ready. You know, let's talk about it.
The way that,
of course, that would make Huber angry.
The way that Ridley Scott and Denis Villeneuve and all those guys meant.
But
or Christopher Nolan, who was it that got all pissed about that?
But I've had lots of. There's been, I think, more than any other show we've done. You're like, oh, this week we're doing this. I'm like, you're doing what? You're doing puppets? Oh God.
We have done a puppet.
You're gonna have to redo so many episodes of Reaction Shots now because I'm like, I know you've done this, but now I'm here.
We'll just do the Jones stuff episode.
The Jones variant episode.
We've done a Huber's favorite things episode. Yeah. We can do a Jones's favorite.
And I did
thing.
just one that was just Batman.
Yeah,
it was just Huber and I
was out of town for that
movies for a while. But that's fun. Thank you for bringing cinema to our our highly cultured audience.
Film is the thing I really care about. So it's
Film's pretty great.
Yeah. Painting with time.
But this show's very cool.
Okay.
It's neat. Yeah, I went. You know, this show's gone places. You know, this show has so many other things that we've done have followed like a very strict rule set or a very an evolution that had had a jury. You know, there's just like a lot of people weighing in on stuff. I had a really interesting moment when we were prepping meetings, and it was like the crew was like, "Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can fix about podcasts. I don't like this or I don't like that," and I was like, "Everybody pause. I don't need to be at this meeting."
Yeah.
It's like, because I'm not going to be on the show anymore. And it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of, and certainly parts of my job that like I really wanted feedback from, you know, almost everybody on the team before I like thought about what I was going to do. Whereas like, I envy the kind of untetheredness of Easy Update.
I try to cultivate. I mean, it's called Easy Update for a reason.
Right.
It ain't called Easy because of Easy Allies.
Yeah.
The idea for this show is that it would be easy to make, which is sometimes true, not usually true, but that was the idea. Never missed a week.
It was because there was a lot of predictable stuff about like just quickly scrolling through the last 6 years of like the channel. And it was just, these big blocks of changes I see. Yes, our anniversary happened then. And like Easy Update's just like, wee. You know, just kind of like
intentionally terrible thumbnails. Yeah. Woo!
Just like a fish just jumping out of the lake, you know, just like hard to catch that thing. So it's been neat. It's been neat watching that.
Thanks.
You and I are similar in a lot of ways. And like, I'm not making a show like this. It's just not. Yeah.
I mean, they mostly usually devolve into, this and Fast and Loose, and it always just devolves into me
Fast
screaming,
and Loose is garbage. That's
screaming at people about absurdist existentialism and everyone confusing it with nihilism, and that's about it.
If I had a nickel.
If I had a nickel for every time.
And thank you for all the editing tips you've given over the years that I've ignored because I forgot what you said and was too scared to ask again.
Edit. That's the only one that matters.
I like editing slow. I like using old techniques.
Yeah, you do.
I like not knowing mostly how Premiere works. I'm a fan.
Efficiency, Jones.
Yeah, I mean you've made this whole thing like Disneyland, man. You brought a lot of fun toys to play with and a lot of expertise. That's just like, oh, that thing does what? Cool. Hi, everybody. We're rolling. Yay, let's go. So
it's an interesting. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's really fun to be the one who understands how everything works. But then every time something goes wrong, I get blamed for it. So Yeah.
See ya.
But yeah. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for, I don't know, everything. Like years of like friendship and work. And it's like, obviously, like we're not going to not see each other ever again.
Right.
But like, well, hopefully. But, I don't know, just thanks. And like, it's been a weird ride. It's been a real weird ride, Jones.
Yeah.
Good on the whole, but real weird. And I think that's the way I like it, honestly.
There's been a lot of facets to it, yeah. Like,
yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like we've gotten like advice, feedback over the year, which is just like, it really feels like they're in a rut. It's like, really, because no week is the same. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, there's literally nothing. Just when we finally have a handle on something, like Nintendo's like, we're like, yeah, on Wednesday?
Yeah, at 6 a.m, you bastards. Yeah, it's funny. Like
that's what was funny. Like, sorry, just having bags in my eyes, like in the hospital. I was like, oh, there's a state of play. Cool. It was like didn't watch it. Still don't even remember what was announced.
Oh no.
Like, cool.
Cool.
Good for Sony.
Yeah, it's funny. Like the comments about like once we got into the studio, they were like, they're not doing anything with it, and it's like, what? It's like, all right, like whatever.
Gotta sleep. Gotta go home. Can't be here every day. Yeah, but but again, just another one of those rocky things is like our community is saying all these different things. What is true? What do we want to do? Like there's never been some concrete equation to that. And so it's just been a fascinating.
It's all mostly guessing. Yeah. And I mean, what we were talking about before, the like kind of philosophical approach of like how there is no capital T truth. Mm-hmm. That's true with people's perceptions of us and the notes that we get. Like, take everything with a grain of salt. Take parts of every comment, most of none of them.
Right.
And like none of most of them. And like, extrapolate from there, it's like.
And I think if you chase money more than you try to be happy, you end up with Defy Media.
Yeah.
And nobody wants Defy Media. I
like that.
But I've enjoyed those moments where we all settled in on something, because I remember when we were at Defy, it's like, we need to cancel Final Boss Man, you need to cancel Mandatory Update, you need to cancel, because none of these things are getting 6 figures and as far as views, and they have to. And I was like, they have to. I'm like, surely that can't be right in some instance, and like, coming over to this and creating.
I never realized that they told you to cancel Mandatory
everything.
Update.
No, they cancel everything. It would cancel everything but reviews and countdowns, basically.
Oh,
like, that's the only two. That's the only things that we as Defy Media understand is like a YouTube show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
List video. Yeah.
So, but it's just been nice to create stuff. Like when I do the showcase, I don't think like, how many views we get on that this month?
Oh yeah.
It's like, no,
I
had a wonderful time with the community. Done. Like, full stop.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all that matters.
Like, I love being medium fries. Like, that's what we like to say, right? Yeah. But, like, it's true. Like, the size we're at where it's like, obviously we want as many views as possible. We want the numbers. We want the patrons. We want, the cash, the fat stacks. But at the same time, it's like, I just want to chill with chat and have a nice time. Yeah. And, like... Yeah,
that's the best I could ask for myself at this stage of my life right now. Going in, like trying a couple things, taking some investments, and like putting, moving some chess pieces around.
Yeah,
and just like one of my expectations is just to meet swell people, and like Easy Allies has contributed a lot to that. And like, oh man, there's some people in seeing what I've learned from them, or the art that they make, or the perspective that they've had on this business is like so much cooler than anything we've done in the business or anything I can. People say, like, we just said on the podcast, like, what's a success you had? What was like a big thing you did in games, or what was when looking back? And it's like the last 6 years really do trump a lot of it, because it was just it was so cool, watching, the 8, the 7 others like, create stuff and seeing what our community comes up with and what they're excited about and what they're willing to do.
Yeah.
And getting ready to change it every year. So
yeah. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, we haven't seen the last of Brandon Jones.
No.
I expect big things, Jonesy.
Yeah.
I hope to be jealous of you very soon.
Oh.
More than I already am.
Oh. Well, I'm going to feel like, hi, it's me. Were you jealous today?
Call me
yesterday, but not today. Okay, cool. All right, I'll call you back.
Yeah.
Just to check. Okay, somebody will message me on Twitter. She was jealous of you. Yes.
Yeah. Like
check mark.
Like the way that everyone keeps asking me if I've listened to Bosman's fucking album.
Bosman's fucking album?
Yeah.
Wait, is that an album of him fucking, or is that an album?
I mean, it might as well be. The one track I listened to was very horny, but yeah.
It's just like a slow jazz, and it's him like, yeah, like that. Yeah.
That I do not want to hear or think about.
Candlelight. Bubbly.
You're making me think things I don't want to think. But yeah, it's like, hey, I'm very proud of him. You know? I listened to it. It was good. That doesn't mean I'm not like, hey, kind of jealous that he's finished that thing. And it's like, and then I have to think to myself, it's like, you put out 90 tracks of music for Easy Update.
My God, yeah, we all.
It's just like, cool it,
the way Amanda will contextualize her unsuccessfulnse sometimes of just like, well, yes, but I haven't done this thing. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like,
well, that's what I've learned, though.
Done all these other amazing things.
That's something that is a very, it's a very human thing. But in LA, it's really hard to do because it's like, I have ex-girlfriends who are on billboards, right? Like, I'll drive and I'll be like, that's my ex-girlfriend. Okay. Like, my brain is handling this. Like, I'm fine. I mean, like, we're still good friends, but it's just like, okay, like, that's her on the billboard. And it's like, cool. And it's like, you'll always find someone else who's like to be jealous of. Like,
I was at these channels at Defy, and then it turned out they were having a really hard time with management. Yeah.
Like at a party the other day, I was talking to a guy and figured out like halfway through the party, it's like, oh, you're the lead editor for Euphoria. Like, ha 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 ha. And here I was like talking to you about fucking Bellatar or whatever. And it's like, we were just like film nerds until I was like, oh, you're legit. Okay. Yeah. Like you can always find someone to be jealous of at any level you're at.
You don't know.
Right.
I've walked away from some conversation. I'm like, he's nice. And Amanda's like, that's goofy. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Good to know. Glad I didn't stick my foot in my mouth into that one.
I don't know why, like where I was or why I was at a thing. And I was talking to a guy and like halfway through realized it was David Hayter. Like Snake.
He wears his hair long in front. So he's like kind of in front of his eyes.
And I was just like, oh. And then I was like, because it was like right when 5 came out. And I was just like, what happened, man? And he was like, he didn't ask me. And I was like, shit. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. But it's just like, oh, you're fucking amazing. Whoops. Anyway, why are we talking about Anyway, we're all jealous of everybody is the point. Yep. Everybody's jealous of everybody. Yep. You're never good enough. Anything you do is never enough. Mm-hmm. And it's like feeling proud of yourself for a minute is great. Cherish it.
People who have submitted art to the showcase and talking about projects they've been willing to do or taken like creative leaps that they were, intimidated to make and finally done. Like, I have enjoyed your content as much, if not sometimes more than anything money can buy. Really, just any sort of thing I can follow or, because success and quality and all those things, they're so nebulous. They can be changed and shift and.
Oh, I mean, fun. Like...
So it's fun about art and life.
Jeff Delgado, I found through this community. We made a card game together. He did the art for Swords. Like, Ian Valentine, is mixing my album. Yeah. Like, met them through this community. Like, all of our T-shirt art is people that we found, it's just like, I am humbled and staggered by the fact that, like, anyone watches this at all, but, like, that so many amazing, talented people waste their time on us. I'm just like, we should be.
We're doing something for you.
We should be watching you. Like, what are you talking about? You're amazing. Yeah. All of you.
What do you get out of this?
Yeah. What do you get out of it? Why are you still here? Watch Severance on Apple TV.
I'm enjoying Winning Time, that Lakers show on HBO.
That looks like a sports. I don't get into that.
I don't get into a lot of sports thing, but it's 1979 and 1980 in Los Angeles. And that's like the year I was born. Fun. And so it's really, it's a fascinating take on that stage. Just a little bit. Too old for this anymore.
I was born in 85, Jones.
Way too old for this.
It's not too bad. Anyways.
Too old. So I will be working less, but I will still live close and I will still have a key and an email address, hopefully.
Will you?
I mean, what do you...
I don't know.
Office key? Just make more keys.
We're hiring someone else. It says do not duplicate on it, Jones. I follow the rules.
They get Kyle's keys.
Who?